In a world so divided on issues that have a profound effect on humanity, how can we possibly help people to see that all human life is valuable?
And that all of these life issues are connected. It may feel overwhelming, but you are not alone.
Welcome to Consistent Life Network's Peace and Life Conversations podcast, where we will explore the journeys and thoughts of activists and everyday people of all generations who are working for the protection of all human life and promoting the consistent life ethic.
Welcome. Consistent Life Network's mission is to uphold the consistent life ethic from conception to natural death through education and advocacy, rejecting the cycle of violence toward all life. Particularly, we oppose war, abortion, the death penalty, euthanasia, racism, and poverty. The CL Kids program is a program of the Consistent Life Network, and it's our youth education outreach effort. In this podcast series, we're talking about youth education topics with young people and with those who work with young people. And I am your co-host, Tony Masalonis. I'm a board member of the Consistent Life Network. I have a doctorate in psychology from the Catholic University of America, and I have been involved in activism on basically all the life issues that I just mentioned, as well as on connecting those issues via the consistent life ethic. Been involved in this, maybe not since I was a kid, but since I was much younger than I am now. And I'm going to have Rosalyn introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Rosalyn. I'm your co-host, and usually I would be asking the questions. However, today I'll be interviewed because this is the first part of a two-part series on youth activism. So, the first section, we're exploring why and how one gets into youth activism. But first, a little bit about myself. I'm currently a university student at Waterloo in Canada. I'm studying political science as I have a passion for all things political. I'll also be joining this summer with the Canadian Centre for Bioethical Reform, which is a nonprofit that focuses specifically on pro-life activism and community outreach.
Okay, thanks, Rosalyn. I'm just going to introduce our other two guests. We have Sonja. If you're watching the video version, she's having some video problems and we don't see her, but she is a freshman studying psychology, near and dear to my heart, as well as film and media studies at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. She's currently an intern with the Consistent Life Network, using mediums such as graphic photography to advocate for human rights. And similarly, our other guest right now, Talon, uses film to raise awareness through a collaborative upcoming video series on consistent life and life issue topics, which will be appearing on our YouTube channel. He's a high school student from New Orleans, and he's running his school's leadership academy to instill leadership and critical thinking skills. He's associated with the Catholic Archdiocese of New Orleans and Louisiana Right to Life. So welcome, everybody. And I think get started with a couple questions that you all can discuss. First question is, how does one get into youth? Sonja, you want to say a few words?
Yeah, definitely. So I found over the course of reflecting on my own experience with youth activism, being able to introduce other people to activism, that the same themes tend to arise. And the first thing that kicks off youth activism is passion. It's the ability to care about a cause or situation that's larger than yourself and be willing to sacrifice to make things better. You cannot be an activist without having this drive, this care for other humans, for their circumstances, for wanting their circumstances to be improved, and for the individuals themselves to be empowered. And so that's always like the first thing. The second thing is to really distinguish between what's termed as slacktivism and true activism. Among Generation Z and Millennials, which are the two youngest generations to be able to participate in political and social realms, they tend to try to swing between the two of these. Slacktivism is defined as thinking that activism is merely just sharing a graphic to your Instagram story or passing around a survey or a petition. It's good that you're raising awareness through that way, but the problem with that is that it kind of leaves the situation flat. There are a lot more things and ways in which people can be active in their community, make things better, volunteering. Even during the times that we're living in now with the rise of the pandemic, there are still a lot of ways in which you can volunteer and help make people's lives better. And so, really investing yourself not only in the cause itself, but also understanding that it's going to take more effort from you in order to determine that. The third thing really is finding your niche in the movement. So, activism doesn't fit with you. You figure out how you fit in with activism. For me, I operate a kind of a crazy schedule. As you can probably tell from my divided major minor combination to, if you know me, the variety of work I'm currently doing, I tend to be kind of all over the place and working on several things at once. I tend to be a night owl, and I know my interests, which tend to be within the media and the arts, that I was able to fit into activism because of the time that I set aside to make it work. I was able to apply those talents that I have as well as interests that I may have in order to create projects or create resource pamphlets for the Massachusetts area for those who are facing unexpected pregnancies or for those seeking help with their sexual and reproductive health. So there's ways in which you can center your focus based on the things that you know that you're already good at or the things that you want to improve your skill in. And it's very likely that the movement will need whatever you can give. So finding your niche and the way that you work and suiting it to the needs of like the movement are incredibly helpful. And it's really, a stepping stone into getting into activism. The last thing I suggest is to get involved with a group that reflects those values that you have. Get connected with a consistent life ethic group, such as ourselves at Consistent Life Network, with any of our member groups, such as Rehumanize International, Secular Pro-Life, Democrats for Life of America, any local organizations, any organizations run by your diocese, your church, just anything through which you can share this common mission of bringing about human rights with other people, because you're going to learn a lot from their experience. They're going to learn from you. And the best part about it is you get to together make conditions a lot better for yourself and the people around you. And so finding that community in which you can do that in is incredibly helpful because no activist can act alone. They always need a good support system and vice versa. So really finding those group and community connections is always very important. So those are the 4 trends that I tend to see when it comes to like getting into youth activism.
Great. Thank you, Sonja. How about Talon? What do you have to say on this topic? How does one get into youth activism?
All right. So I would say most importantly, as Sonja was saying before me, find an issue that you're most passionate about. The 3 of us all are probably going to speak on passion because it's so important. For example, like the essence of life in our society. That's something I'm passionate about. It's an issue I'm working on through the Consistent Life Network. It's just important to find this passion. That way you can inch toward the success, not only in your life, but just the success of your mission. I like to say that leadership is not based on the position held, but rather what is done with the position. So as an activist, it doesn't matter our age. It just matters what we're accomplishing with that age. So, the size of the amount of success in your life is just based on the size of the problems that you solve. If I solve bigger problems, I'm going to be inching toward that big mission in my life. So then once you've accomplished finding your passion, contact other people that share it to inquire about working with or for their cause and continue to learn more about the issues closest to your heart, that passion. So use these connections and this knowledge to do your part in changing the world for the better by working on a problem that you care a great deal about, that niche as Sonja spoke on. You know, I'm passionate about life ethics, as told you before, but my niche, you could say, is speech and debate, and using that, my talents, to accomplish the mission that I spoke on.
Okay. Thanks, Talon. How about Rosalyn? What about you?
So my spark very much came in my realm of the pursuit of knowledge, and the internet is such a great tool for that. It's a way to communicate where people can organize for social change. I think the gatekeepers of the media, where cable news has really been broken. You see the rise of truth seekers beyond the narratives that have been established in society. And that's such an important part of act is, can you connect with people? And how can you do that unless you communicate with them? As a Christian, I'm called to love my enemies because this is what Jesus did. And a big part of activism is about talking less and listening more. It's about difficult conversations. And I think you need a thick skin because people are not going to always agree with you, and you can't take things super personally. And in my time in activism, even though I'm young, I've really learned that people make a nation. This love of people really drove me to get involved in groups like the Consistent Life Ethic. Activism really starts locally and tapping into the sources that your media speaks to. Like for my generation, that would be social media like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. For older generations, it may be cable news, radio shows, podcasts. But I just think of the George Floyd protests and how in this modern era anybody can be a journalist. After all, the video that sparked mass protests for racial justice was taken by a bystander. When he saw injustice, he spoke up. And that is my advice to all people watching today, is that when you see injustice, expose it. And that's the heart of activism. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosalind, and thank all of you for your insights and just for all you do. We want to cover one more question in this part one of our two-part youth activism series, and that would be basically, so the consistent life ethic isn't necessarily all that popular. It's not necessarily all that well known yet. In fact, a lot of people from a very young age or at any age are taught more like inconsistent beliefs on the life issues. So I'd like to hear a little bit from each of you. We'll go in the same order about how did you come to your consistent life beliefs?
So for me, I was blessed to have been raised in a strong Catholic family. My family encouraged respect and understanding of all people, regardless of their circumstances, from a really young age. And it was from my family and from other exposure to Catholic social teaching over the course of my schooling that I came to understand the consistent life ethic. It's interesting too because a priest who ended up becoming a cardinal, Cardinal Humberto Medeiros, he was actually the first person to use the term consistent life ethic, and he was born and first served in my hometown. So the consistent life ethic really hits close to home in both a geographic sense and a religious sense, and then in the spaces where I've been most comfortable with as I've grown up. People have told me that I just seemingly walk around with a nonstop mind and a heart on my sleeve. I have always been motivated to heal, preserve, propel, empower anything that would allow people to rise through their circumstances, rise above their circumstances, be able to find meaning in all the things that they faced. And so those things combined really fueled the foundation for my consistent life beliefs and also the activism that proceed from that. My first March for Life I attended was definitely a turning point. That was in January 2017. It defined my passion for the consistent life ethic, and especially with the issues of protecting people when it came to abortion. My experiences with a variety of groups with a diverse number of people allowed me to learn and grow with them. Now I've been blessed to work with Consistent Life Network. I've worked with several other Consistent Life organizations in the past, and through all of those experiences, I've figured out how to fuel my passion into a belief system that seeks to protect the basic rights of the human person, the respect they deserve, their life, their freedom from oppression and violence, in a non-violent way, but in a way that speaks to the heart. And that what has led me to solidify my belief in the consistent life ethic and how it can be carried out in our world.
Talon?
So my older brother had begun to work at Louisiana Right to Life, the statewide pro-life organization for Louisiana. He would educate me on different projects they were working on there, and I had begun to do some of my own research at the time. I started to find ways to relate to the people facing these terrible issues that negatively affected or took their life. So I decided that I wanted to fight for this because some of these people couldn't fight for themselves. For example, unborn babies, they don't even have a voice yet. So I realized that everyone deserves a chance to live life to the fullest and how important life can be to someone. So later I discovered how peace preserves life and puts it under much better circumstances. And that was really just through understanding how important life is. So personally, I believe that once I matured enough to understand that there was an other way than just the status quo, my yearning to fight for life was fostered to a greater extent.
Great. Thank you. And Rosalind?
Yeah, if you think 2020 was a crazy year, well, there was 2016. And that was the year of my political awakening. I saw the status quo collapse during the 2016 election. And when I was transitioning to college from high school, I was beginning to explore beyond the boundaries of my evangelical Christian worldview. And what I found is a deep irony in the policies of both standard conservative and liberal policies. This really drew me to develop the consistent life ethic because it values human life as being innately valuable from conception to natural death. And let's take the example of abortion, something that I was always personally against, but I always had some doubts politically. I saw an irony in what I call the pro birth position, or an abstinence of caring for human life post birth. What I saw is that a lot of traditional conservative neoliberal policy led to the gutting of the social welfare system, supported the death penalty, and endless war. On the left, I saw problems too. I saw social justice warriors sacrificing our children, the heart of the nation, to the altar of feminism. But the consistent life ethic, well, that was different. It really resolved these ironies, this conflict I had. It created an internal logical system that wasn't hypocritical. One that I think really reflects Jesus' commands to love your neighbor as yourself.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Rosalind. And thank all of you for your thoughtful responses to both questions. And it really is inspiring to me, to see your generation kind of rising and calling out and actively working for an end to violence, and the and really understanding the connectedness of all life and of all the life issues. It really does. I mean, when I hear you guys talk, I'm reminded that the consistent life ethic really sells itself. It people shouldn't have to be convinced of it, but you know, people still do, and it's great that you guys are out there, helping your own generation and my generation and everybody, to understand this stuff. And it really, we talked a bit about both religion and politics today, and just wanted to be clear for those of you out there listening who are like, well, I'm not into politics or I don't have a faith background. It doesn't matter because the consistent life ethic is really, these are human issues. They are not political or moral or faith issues, although, there are some political and faith traditions that do really advocate for life. So anyway, if Let me just open the floor. Does anybody have any other thing they want to add or ask each other? Or
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on Sonya's term of slacktivism. To me, I see a lot of parallels to virtue signaling and cancel culture, which is really dominant in the news lately. I think it parallels this idea of people who want to make change, but don't actually want to do the difficult work associated with it. So they'll post a hashtag on Twitter or something to their Instagram feed and call it activism. And yes, it is good in spreading awareness, as Sonia says, but it really isn't a part of what activism is. Like getting to know the community, seeing how these issues really impact real people, and not just looking for band-aid solutions, but looking to absolve root causes, which takes years. I mean, there's many activists who passed away and never saw the fruition of their work, but their work was so invaluable to movements that empowered human rights. So, yeah, I thank you, Sonia. I think you really drawed a very important point to attention.
Thank you so much, Rosalyn.
okay, well, again, thank you all for joining us, and for all our listeners, thank you for listening. If you want to learn more about the Consistent Life Network, please visit our website. It's Consistent Life Network, all one word, .org. And you can also find us on Twitter at Consistent Life, one word, and on Instagram at Consistent Life Net, again, all one word, and also our Facebook page where we are Consistent Life. Part 2 of this series will explore how and what is being accomplished by youth activists to better humanity. So please join us again next time, and thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for joining the Consistent Life Network's Peace and Life Conversations podcast. All links and organizations mentioned in our episodes are linked in the description box. For more information, visit us at consistentlifenetwork.org. We'll see you next time.